You just saw our interviews with the two candidates vying for the Attorney General's office. Now we turn to our line panelists once more to discuss this race. Now there's been very little polling, but Mr. Balderas does have a huge lead in fundraising, if that means something, and the two are emphasizing very different roles for this office, with Ms. Riedel focusing on the prosecutorial role of the AG's office, and Mr. Balderas more so on consumer protection aspects and fraud investigations. And Rob, Ms. Riedel is a close ally of Governor Susana Martinez. That came out very much in the she didn't try to walk away from that at all. But where does that put her? Does that help her markedly? Hurt her markedly? Does it mean nothing?
I don't know if it ultimately means much. I imagine Democrats who don't like Governor Martinez and might try to make hay of it. Republicans who do will say it's an advantage. I thought stylistically, and we talked about the style things in the Michelle Lujan Grisham, Michael Freeze debate. I thought stylistically, I liked both candidates stylistically. Gwyneth asked them direct questions. They gave them direct answers. With one exception, I thought it was interesting when Gwyneth asked Hector Balderas, is this just going to be a stepping stone for you?
Right.
He totally pivoted on that. He didn't answer the question. He said that if I got more tools in my toolbox, I can do a really great job as Attorney General. And that's, that's a legitimate question because Mr. Balderas is young, he's attractive, he's Hispanic. He's a Democrat in a Democrat state, so he has a very promising future in this.
And you have to think, Antoinette Cedillo Lopez, that not just Ms. Riedel, but everybody in the Republican Party knows exactly what Rob was just saying. And this is an important race for them. And she is close to the governor. You have to imagine she's going to have the resources she needs to make this work in some way. What do you think about that?
It was interesting because when you think of the structure of the office, there is an aspect of advising the governor, but there is also a really important aspect of weeding out corruption.
Right.
And so actually there's some benefit to having different parties so that there is more aggressive, and sort of when you're really close to someone, you don't expect the worst of that person.
Let me go to Steve on that very point. Is that something that could hurt her, that sense that she wouldn't dig into something she might find in the governor's
I think
office?
Balderas kind of tiptoed around that issue. We're not like the federal system where, John F. Kennedy appoints his brother to be Attorney General, or Nixon appoints Ed Meese, his lawyer. We're supposed to have an independent Attorney General. So if you've worked for the governor for 20 years and been her deputy, that raises some questions about independence. So if, say, the first issue you're going to deal with is the Medicaid fraud and the behavioral health crisis, and you're looking into what the administration did, well, do you really want someone who's very close to the governor who's been the deputy, or do you want someone who's more independent? I really thought Mr. Balderas could have done more with that. Maybe he was relying on people like us to bring that up in the post-debate.
But there's a fair point, Sophie. I was leading up to that very point. Did Mr. Balderas make that case, that there's an inherent conflict here?
No, I don't think that he did a great job. He did speak of his opponent in ways that I thought were actually helpful, fruitful for his campaign. One of the things that I found fascinating, though, was that of the two, the one that spoke more and more clearly of government corruption was Riedel. And so here she is. Which government are you, what government are you looking at here? Are you looking at your own party's state government, or are you thinking about, and she didn't really go into that, so it sort of leaves it hanging out there. Whereas Balderas spoke, I thought, very specifically about, for instance, the work that he had done and the
In Jemez.
In Jemez, thank you. And sort of, I thought, made it clearer that there was government all over the place. But with her, it sort of left the impression, oh, okay, you're going to go after the governor's office? Who are you talking about?
In the overall, Antoinette, I'm glad you brought up the Jemez situation. What did you make of that? He was asked by Gwyneth, what have you specifically, and he actually had a story that he specifically went to this area, met with the community, met with folks. It's kind of folksy, kind of interesting way to put all that.
Well, and it's interesting because if you notice, whenever he speaks, he doesn't say I a lot. He says we over and over again. And he did that through the debate. And she actually pushed him because he started saying, well, we did this, we did that. And she said, well, what did you do? And I think it's just his style, and that's why people like to work with him, is because he's very team-oriented.
I think, too, that going back to the themes of the two campaigns, one of the things that we've seen from Balderas really throughout his political career is this idea of a good manager, a good strategist, somebody who runs the business of the office well. We saw that with the auditor's office. I think that's part of what he's promising for the AG's office. Goodness knows any bureaucratic organization, AG not excluded, needs effective management, and that is something when he says we, I feel like he's hearkening back to that good management element. Now Rita is saying, we need the prosecutorial angle. She's bringing something very different to the table, and those two styles I think could be important when you're right in the middle trying to decide.
There might be an undercurrent too here. I mean, nationally, there seems to be, it hasn't quite reached the surface, it's kind of bubbling there, about attorney generals and what their roles are.
Gotcha.
Because there are some attorney generals, and the more activists tend to be Democrats. For example, in Virginia, just the other day when the Supreme Court punted on the gay marriage issue, the attorney general in Virginia has, even though Virginia has an amendment that says marriage is between one man and one woman, he's come out and said, I'm not going to enforce that law.
Right.
And you see that he also did not enforce a law in Virginia about granting in-state tuition to Dreamers. So there's this kind of tension that hasn't quite reached the surface yet, but I think you see it here in this race as well, where Susan Riedel says, I'm going to enforce the law, and Hector's saying, I'm going to enforce the law, and I'm also going to have a little bit more of an expansionist role.
Interesting. Now, thank you all for being here. This is good stuff, and the debate season is on. I love it. Now, catch up some web extras, especially on our genealogy segment, online at NewMexicoInFocus.org. We'll see you there. As always, all of us here at New Mexico in Focus appreciate your time and your effort to stay informed and engaged. Catch up with us anytime on Facebook and Twitter by searching New Mexico in Focus. And you can find archived interviews and bonus material from our shows on our YouTube channel and at NewMexicoInFocus.org. I'm Gene Grant. We'll see you next week in Focus. Partial funding for this New Mexico in Focus provided by Finding Your Roots. Major corporate support for the second season of Finding Your Roots is provided by Ancestry.com. Additional corporate funding is provided by Ford Motor Company, Johnson & Johnson, and McDonald's. Major support is also provided by the Ford Foundation, Dr. Georgette Bennett and Dr. Leonard Polanski, Candace King Weir and the Darrell and Stephen Roth Foundation, and Loida and Lewis. Support is also provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and PBS.